Hours later, I awoke in a stir, my head pounding and my body feeling like I would been hit by a herd of elephants. A feeble light trickled through a strong and locked doorway to the east, allowing me to make out a humanoid sitting across from me, still gagged but pleading with her eyes for me to help. I forced my aching body forward and slowly undid the gag. The elf spit a few times and moved her jaw around, then looked back to me, wanting to talk. "Thank you," the young elf almost whispered. "I've had that thing on for days." I nodded and introduced myself, then asked the elf to do the same. "I am Ariana. My brother and I were passing through Tabin a few days ago, camped in the woods just north of the village. That human thief with the ultimate, Rachel I think her name was, lured us here with the promise of treasure. The ultimate then charmed us and imprisoned us here. I told Benjamin, my brother, that we couldn't trust this Rachel thief. It appears she betrayed you as well." "Yes, Rachel, the very first hero I invited into my party, and who turned out to be a traitor and potential assassin. I began to wonder if I would ever trust anyone again. The Nemesis plant, the source of magical power for the ultimates of Chegaria," Ariana continued. "First, they fed it the bodies of the priests who lived here. Then they fed it my brother Benjamin." Quite angry, the elf fought back the tears, so very close to her brother. Even though she was a stranger, I stepped forward and softly embraced her, allowing her to momentarily grieve for her lost brother. Always taught that life goes on, however, she backed away and stood a bit straighter, recognizing that there were still pressing matters at hand. The show of empathy was touching and I felt Ariana really was someone I could trust. "What do you know of this Nemesis plant?" I asked, still not sure of what had happened in the past 8 hours. "The ultimates, out to overthrow the inner circle and begin their own revolution, feed on the fruits of the plant to sustain their magic-like powers," Ariana returned, clearly more knowledgeable about the subject than myself. "Those who eat the fruit basically become magic users. But the plant is dark, evil, poisonous. The fruit destroys the conscience and turns its users into wicked sorcerers without morals or mercy. We must stop this Darius at all costs." Ariana confirmed my suspicions, that not just Darius but Rachel was the enemy and had to be defeated as soon as possible. But where to go from here? Tora, the life of the inner circle representative coming to Tabin, Margaret is her name, Ariana continued, her gaze upon me quite sincere. "At this point, only we can save her. Let's form a party together and try to rescue the circle wizard." While anyone could have been duped by Rachel given the circumstances, Ariana clearly had only honor and goodness in her heart and would become a valuable ally. She was definitely one to be trusted. So, I nodded affirmatively, agreeing with Ariana to try and save the circle representative. While joining forces was certainly best for both of us, there was still the issue of the locked door beyond. At the moment, we were trapped and couldn't go anywhere. "Do you smell that?" Ariana asked, looking about. The elf was right, there was an odd smell here. "Something rotting, putrid," I responded, narrowing down the possibilities. "Some sort of fertilizer?" Ariana stepped away and began looking around, clearly onto something. "Yes, there is fertilizer in here I think," the young elf replied, looking about. "If we can find it, I have an idea." There. Sure enough, in the far corner opposite the door were several large bags of fertilizer, something the clerics used to grow their mushrooms. Ariana ripped open a bag, grabbed some of the stuff and then looked around again. Attached to the wall near the elf was a simple oil lamp, its wick cold and the lamp dark. Ariana carefully extracted the small glass container from the lamp, then proceeded to dump its oily contents atop the large ball of fertilizer in her hands, mixing the substances together. "Benjamin and I were raised on a farm before we decided to have a go at adventuring," Ariana commented as she continued to knead the fertilizer and fuel oil mixed together in her hands, approaching me as she spoke. "With the right ingredients and mix, it's possible to make something explosive." "Explosive?" I asked, a bit fascinated. "Like some sort of bomb?" "Not quite. Just something powerful enough to destroy the locking mechanism in the door and set us free. Given current American culture that disapproves of anything based on science and technology, I wasn't sure I liked the idea. After all, both the inner circle and the Sislan way today teach that any advanced technology is both evil and wrong. But hey, if Ariana could somehow blast through the locked door and give us a chance to save the inner circle representative, it couldn't be all bad, right?" I am not sure why this works, but mixing some fertilizer with anything that burns like this lamp oil, and then striking it with something hard, can cause it to ignite, perhaps even explode, Ariana explained as she stepped to the locked door and carefully applied the mixture in her hands to the locking mechanism. The resourceful elf then returned to me and wiped her hands on some linens from a nearby bed. Grabbing her bow and quiver from a small pile of possessions lying on the bed as well, Ariana warned me to stand back before knocking an arrow and drawing back on the bow, about to try something dangerous. Ariana then aimed for the door's locking mechanism and let loose with the arrow. Quite the archer, Ariana's aim was true. The arrow struck the glob of fertilizer lamp oil mix and gently exploded, destroying the lock and causing the door to creak open. We were free. Surprised by the change in fortune, I continued to stare at Ariana, in awe of what she'd just done. Where did you learn to do that? I am from the Orion Society, Ariana awkwardly responded, aware of the country's negative reputation. While the use of sophisticated technology is absolutely outlawed within all American society, there are still those who not just tolerate science but champion it, despite its negative social ramifications. Over time, many of these outcasts settled within a human-run country to the south known today as the Orion Society. I knew little more about it, other than the fact that the Inner Circle recently denounced the entire country for its supposedly wicked and lawless ways. Not interested in any further discussion regarding her homeland, Ariana grabbed the rest of her belongings and then led me toward the unlocked door beyond. The ultimate and the thief are probably back in Tabin already and distributing their poisoned antidote, Ariana added, checking herself over for the trek back to the village. The Circle representative has also likely arrived by now, so we need to hurry. Do you know where we should look for the Circle wizard? The town park? I answered, recalling the road that had just been constructed to allow Margaret and her entourage to camp there. Yes, that's my bet as well. Ariana returned in complete agreement. Let's go. About to depart, I suddenly remembered that to complete the quest, I had to bring back something to Healer Priest Bester that proved I was here. Hence, I initiated a quick search of the ransacked bedchamber to find something relevant I could return to Bester with. Fortunately, it didn't take long before I found a unique ring on a table, a non-magical item only given to Tabin clerics of the Sislan way. As Ariana watched, I grabbed the sacred Sislan ring and dropped it into a secured pocket. I now had the proof I needed to return to Healer Priest Bester at some point, make my report and conclude the quest. Now free to go through the doorway and head past the destroyed Nemesis plant, Ariana and I quickly passed through the cave complex, exited the cave and ran most of the way back to Tabin, reaching its outskirts in just under 2 hours or so. Racing back to the village park, it appeared we were too late. The Inner Circle representative Margaret had already arrived and hundreds of townspeople were gathered to cheer her on. With no time to lose, Ariana and I squirmed our way through the crowd and soon reached the center of attention. Several large wagons rested along the newly laid gravel road, the Tabin village elders all standing before the center wagon as the representative herself stepped down to greet all the cheering townspeople. With only seconds to act, I quickly accounted for all the town elders, but I couldn't seem to find the Chagarian Darius, or his traitorous sidekick Rachel. Indeed, for the moment at least, all seemed well and I wondered if perhaps the evil plans of Darius had somehow gone astray. Well hidden until now, Darius then appeared amongst the elders carrying one of the Chich's antidote sacks, about to put his devious plan into motion. About to leap forth to stop Darius, I suddenly felt a knife pressed against my own throat. Rachel had surprised me from behind and warned me that one false move would result in my immediate death. I watched in stunned silence as Darius handed each of his fellow elders a vial of tainted antidote, along with several of Representative Margaret's guards, compelling them all to drink up, the liquid an obvious sign of tradition and respect within Tabin. Supreme Healer Priest Bester approved, and quickly the antidote was imbibed, the plan of Darius working flawlessly. On behalf of my fellow elders, I welcome you to our humble village of Tabin. Darius began, seizing control of the situation. We are so happy that you've come. While the actual village elders looked confused with Darius suddenly seizing control of Margaret's arrival, the Circle wizard herself seemed completely at ease with the introduction, assuming the spectacle was all planned from the start. Waving to the crowd, Representative Margaret now stood just a few feet from Darius, totally unsuspecting. With his now characteristic grin, the Chagarian then sprang his trap. Now I won't have to hunt you down to kill you. Without warning, Darius leaped forward and wrapped a strange, glowing cord around the representative, taking her by surprise. "What's this?" exclaimed the circle wizard, immediately recognizing the anti-magic device wrapped around her. "A jacocard. My magic." "That's right, demon." Darius laughed, withdrawing a long and lean dagger to slay the sorceress with. "Without your magic, you're just an old, frail woman." "Guards!" Representative Margaret shouted, her life suddenly in very real danger. "I don't think so," Darius grinned again as Margaret's soldier entourage reacted, drawing their swords to defend the circle wizard. "All of you, lay down your weapons and stand down." Now poisoned by the corrupted energies of the Nemphrit, both the village elders and the circle guards stood confused, beginning to recognize Darius as their true master. Indeed, all the townspeople here had been charmed as well. There appeared to be no hope for Margaret now. Darius laughed again, then raised his dagger into the air, about to strike. Out of the corner of my eye, I then spotted Ariana standing in the crowd 30 feet away, her bow raised but unsure of what to do. The two of us locked eyes, and her desperate look begged me for advice. Should she try to shoot Darius, Rachel, or rush to try and free me? With no time to react, I looked back at Darius, indicating that she should shoot him immediately. Ariana agreed, and while not having a clear shot, the young elf pulled back on her bow, steadied her aim and fired. Bullseye. Ariana's fateful shot landed squarely between the shoulder blades of Darius, causing him to cry out in sudden pain. More importantly, Darius dropped the jacocard and Representative Margaret kicked it away, freeing herself. Margaret then began chanting a powerful spell, something that would quickly slay Darius. Recognizing the dramatic turn of events, the Chagarian activated his ring of teleportation and within an instant he was gone. The circle wizard had been saved but Darius had, unfortunately, escaped. "Darius!" Rachel whispered from behind, the young thief recognizing all too well that he had left her here to her own fate. "Damn you, Lamtora! At least you will die with me." Expecting my throat to be cut, the pressure of the blade at my throat was suddenly removed and I slowly turned to see Ariana standing behind Rachel, her own dagger at Rachel's throat. I nodded to Ariana, then quickly turned toward Representative Margaret, the woman very angry over her close brush with death. While Darius was now gone, his Nemphrid poison continued to drug nearly everyone, causing them to behave aggressively. Hence, the danger wasn't over and I needed to act quickly. A few wild moments later, I approached the circle wizard, the sorceress quite angry and ready for anything. Recognizing that Representative Margaret likely didn't know who to trust at this point, and that my sudden approach could be interpreted as yet another threat, I turned my back to her so I could face any additional combatants and ensure she was protected. The tactic seemed to work, exposing my own back likely demonstrated my sincerity and she began to trust me. "And who are you, child?" Representative Margaret finally asked, initiating a conversation. As I began to tell my story, the wizard quickly interrupted, mumbling something about words being too slow. She then reached out for me, and in an instant, I felt her mind probe my own, as if she were somehow able to know what I had recently seen and experienced. As the sorceress absorbed my thoughts and encounters, the sensation became quite intense, almost intolerable. While the wizard's means for extracting the truth from me was far more efficient this way than with mere words, the sensation was just too much and I tried to drive her out of my mind. Unfortunately, I was no match for a truistic of the inner circle and the woman soon took everything she needed from me, the pain nearly unbearable. "I see," the representative finally uttered, now completely aware of what had happened. "Stand back." I watched in utter amazement as the sorceress cast an anti-magic shell around us, then dispelled all the magic around us in a 10-foot radius. The nearest townspeople drugged by the Nemphrid were immediately cured, while it took a few minutes for Margaret to pass through the crowd and ensure that everyone else was similarly cured. Soon, even the wizard's own guards as well as the village elders were back to their senses, embarrassed by the sudden corruption of the tainted antidote but equally civil and thankful toward Margaret. "Guards!" Representative Margaret shouted, her work here all but complete. "This town is not safe for us. We leave at once." The military entourage protecting the wizard did as they were told, preparing their small collection of wagons and carriages to depart the village park and continue their trek southward. "And what should we do with this one?" Village elder Allard asked of Rachel, the thief now defeated and dejected. "She's as guilty as the Chagarian," Ariana hissed, the young elf not forgetting what Rachel and Darius had done to her brother Benjamin. "They murdered my brother and caused all this to happen. Justice is swift here in Tabin, Elder Allard replied, attempting to comfort both Margaret as well as Ariana. Lam Tora, join us at the village center when you're done here so we can decide this rogue's fate. And with that Rachel was led away, a dozen townspeople ensuring that her escape was an impossibility. Representative Margaret nodded with approval, then turned back for her own carriage, about to depart. Follow me, she said to Ariana and myself, commanding us to walk with her. The three of us then returned to the place where Darius had nearly slain Margaret just minutes ago. Without hesitation, the circle wizard picked the Jacocard up off the ground and turned to us, retrieving her own dagger moments later. I hate these things. They can render even the mightiest wizard powerless, but they're also quite fragile. There. With a strong tug, Margaret cut the Jacocard apart, immediately destroying it. She then handed the object to me, an apparent reward for all we had done. You two did well and have my appreciation. Take this, it's no longer magical, but it should fetch quite a lot somewhere. The old woman showed a hint of gratitude, then allowed a nearby soldier to help her into her carriage, about to pull away. Back inside her carriage, the circle wizard ordered her procession forward, clearly wanting to leave Tabin as soon as possible. The primary window of the carriage then opened and Representative Margaret poked her head through, about to leave some final orders with me. Lam Tora, I am expecting great things from you, I can sense it. I hereby order you to Kathleen, capital of Pirapa. The city is being attacked by the undead and you need to stop it. Go at once, as I am afraid Kathleen does not have much time. And with that, the circle wizard's procession drove away to the south. Yes, I knew about Kathleen, the capital city of Pirapa located about 4 days away to the east. If memory served, the city had been attacked a year ago by undead monsters, but those attacks didn't last long. It was disappointing to hear that the attacks had apparently resumed. The crowd now gone and the park clearing quiet and empty, I nodded for Ariana to follow me north and back to the town hall, where some quick justice needed to be dispensed. Returning to the town hall, the village elders and dozens of Tabin's most prominent citizens had already gathered to sentence Rachel for helping the escaped Chagarian Darius attempt to murder the inner circle representative Margaret. While initially angry, my heart began to sink with dread. Nothing good ever came of these trials, and despite her obvious betrayal, I suspected Rachel was doomed and it wasn't a good feeling. Let us bring this trial to order, began Elder Allard, the senior official within Tabin. The defendant has committed the highest treason against the people of Tabin, the country of Pirapa, the whole of Mariga and, especially, the righteousness of the inner circle. The question before us isn't whether she should be executed but simply how. Elder Allard then turned to me and asked that I step forward. Having almost single-handedly saved the life of the representative, it appeared that I would have the final say in how Rachel was dealt with. As our new hero of Tabin, Lam Tora, the elders have decided to follow your advice on how this thief should be executed. Should it be quick and merciful, slow and painful, or do we cast her into Gemcore to suffer for all eternity? Yes, I had heard of Gemcore, a magical prison located within the Silverlands to the north where those convicted of unspeakable crimes were sent to and never returned. Some even say that those banished within Gemcore never age and hence suffer for eternity, a presumed fate far worse than death. Elder Allard asked again, what would it be? I had 3 horrible options to choose from, none of which seemed appropriate. All eyes stared at me as I carefully considered my response. I choose a quick and merciful death. Certainly the better of 3 very negative choices. Rachel began sobbing for her life and I turned away, my heart breaking as well. Elder Allard nodded, and several guards quickly whisked Rachel away, likely to be beheaded within the hour. While some may have wanted an even harsher penalty for the thief, justice had been served and my personal reputation would likely improve because of it. Supreme Healer Priest Bester led the townspeople in a prayer for Rachel's soul, then the crowd departed, soon leaving me alone with Ariana and Elder Allard just outside the building. You've done our town a great service, the elder commented, about to leave himself. Where will you go now? I am to head east for Kathleen, I replied, Representative Margaret's warning all too clear in my mind. Apparently something is very wrong there as well. That's not an easy trek, Allard replied, considering the journey. It's only 4 days to Kathleen, but the last leg of the trek will take you through dangerous marshland. On behalf of your home village, we wish you well. Looks like you've come of age. I nodded, thinking back on everything I had accomplished in just a few short days. It certainly felt good to have started my adventuring career on the right foot. If only Rachel had done the same. Returning to the Sislan temple, Ariana and I quickly found Supreme Healer Priest Bester at the pulpit again, the cleric likely expecting me. Remaining silent, I handed over the sacred Sislan ring I had found at the cave and explained what had happened, sorrowful to announce that none of the priests survived their encounter with the Chagarian ultimate Darius and his lackey thief Rachel. Bester uttered a quick and silent prayer, then slowly turned for the altar behind the three of us. "Thank you for risking your life in support of our work here at the Sislan Way," Bester returned, his soul clearly bruised by the news. "I will see to the rituals and burial of our brave, unfortunate brethren. We will then rebuild our operations and start providing our antidote again." "And that reward?" I asked, the situation somewhat awkward but desiring Bester's promised reward nonetheless. Healer Priest Bester slowly nodded, then reached behind the altar and retrieved a small stone collections box normally used to solicit funds from those entering the temple. He spoke a few magical words and the box popped open, revealing my reward inside. "For your time and trouble, a reward of 100 gold coins and a few potions of fear antidote, as promised," Bester stated matter-of-factly, his mind still focused on his lost priests. "Thank you for your courage and heroism, and may Sisla continue to forever bless you and watch over you." I grabbed the loot and shared some of it with Ariana, securing the rest in my pack, my first major quest a success. Ariana softly smiled and we quickly departed the temple, intent on stopping at the tavern for a well-deserved meal before spending the night at Madame Isida's hostel, from where we could then head for the capital city of Kathleen early the next morning and begin our investigation of those undead attacks against the city. As Elder Allard had said, I had come of age, yet I had no idea of the pain, difficulty, and terror of all that was yet to come. And that's a wrap of episode number 5, Assassins of Tabin. Expect additional episodes every few weeks as the story continues.